What's up, guys? I hope you weren't drinking any coffee, because if you did, you probably spilt it all over your keyboard. Seriously, how cool was that intro? Shout out to the Coalition. I think it's really cool that they're providing content creators with resources such as the intro you just watched. Really cool. Now you're watching a team deathmatch gameplay on the map Fallout. It's a good gameplay and also kind of a weird one, as you'll see throughout the game. But hopefully it's entertaining to watch. For the purposes of this video, I'll just be discussing some thoughts and feedbacks that I have of Gears 4. Since we're about a month post-launch and we just got a title update, I will just be talking about the player versus player part of the game, since that's what I sink the most time into, and obviously recognize that I have a bit of a bias being a huge Gears fan, but from time to time I do like to provide my thoughts and feedback in regards to the game. So I'm going to break it into categories, and we're going to start it off with gameplay, which I think is the most important thing I want to talk about. So the gameplay, the actual gameplay of a game, is foundational, in my opinion, to its overall success and longevity, and I can quickly say that Gears 4 got it right. I think that was evident from the beta as well. Gears 4 feels like a great game, it plays like a great game, it's a lot of fun, and it's got that addictive Gears feel that we expect from these titles. And just to emphasize how important this is, I would argue that something like Gears Judgment didn't get the gameplay right, which was a major contributing factor in what led to its downfall. But you can see that with Gears 4, this is a game I think people are going to be playing for quite some time. So while you may have some gripes about certain things like the hammer burst, for instance, which did get updated, overall, I think most people who play Gears, and hopefully those who are new to it, would agree that this is a very fun, great game to play at its core. I will say that I'm still not a fan of the split weapon tunings. I kind of voiced my concern about this prior to the game being released, and after playing, my position hasn't really changed. I don't like the idea of a split tuning between core and competitive. I think it creates two categories that can be divisive, it's slotting players into certain playlists. And while you can make the argument that you can switch between categories and playlists, which players do, including myself, I would kind of counter that by just saying that it's a bit of a nuisance and frustrating that we have to learn two different weapon tunings, and I'm sure that there are certain players that are turned off from certain categories or playlists given the way they're labeled. So personally, I would have preferred if there was one unified weapon tuning somewhere in between the weapon tuning of competitive and core, and that one size fits all I think would have been better for the community, and I much more would have preferred it. Another thing that I will kind of provide a critique on is the actual audio in the game. A player had actually mentioned this, and I started to notice it, and that's that Gears 4 seems to be kind of quiet in comparison to previous Gears titles when it comes to the characters or the actual sounds that guns make, and that can make it slightly less immersive than you would expect. It's something that I took for granted in previous Gears titles, but Gears 4 kind of at times feels like a paintball match in the sense that it's more casual and laid back, and it doesn't feel like a war zone, for me at least, like it did in previous Gears titles. So perhaps I'm wrong on this, or perhaps I have a point. Definitely let me know what you think. When it comes to the visuals, however, I think Gears of War 4 looks great. I know that was a huge concern with the beta, so I'm happy to see how its finalized look is. And I love the dichotomy between dark, nitty-gritty maps like Fallout that you're watching and bright, optimistic maps like Reclaimer. It just provides a lot of different feels that you can get to battle it out in the Gears universe. So I definitely commend them for the visuals. So now I'm just going to kind of move on to the game types and playlists in the game. We have the core playlists and game types that you'd expect from a Gears franchise, and the introduction of some new ones like Escalation, Dodgeball, Arms Race. From what I've heard, Escalation is a fantastic game type. I haven't sunk too much time in it myself, but from watching competitive players play it and listening to their feedback, it sounds like a great addition to the Gears universe. I will say that online it has some issues because people like to quit, which is obviously another issue that needs to be addressed in matchmaking, and that's a huge detriment to a game type that takes a long time to play out like Escalation. I'll also say that I really want to see the introduction of a competitive non-respawn game type like the bomb game type everyone talked about for a long time, because I feel like one of the strong points of Gears was that it created a lot of heated moments where you and your team, whoever was left anyway, was forced to deal with situations where you might be outnumbered for the remainder of the round, which was really fun to watch and created a lot of exciting moments. So basically what I'm saying is I would like to see a mix of competitive respawn and non-respawn game types. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that as it stands, the competitive scene is using escalation as a best of one for a series. And I'm not huge on that because I've always been a fan of watching competitive teams deal with a diversity of maps, game types, and situations. It really just exemplifies certain parts of the team or the game that you might not be able to capture with just one game type. So that's something I'd like to see change in the future. Hopefully we see that sooner versus later. A word about the developer playlist. It's a great idea, and as a Seasons Pass holder, I'm kind of excited to see what they can do with it, but I was slightly let down by how it went for the dry dock checkout period, where basically you could test those two maps on Arms Race and Dodgeball. I understand having to restrict it to certain game types, but I didn't like that it kind of adapted this social playlist kind of standard, because a lot of the times I was just playing bots or people who were not very familiar with the game, so it was difficult to actually play on those maps in a kind of an enjoyable way because half the time I was not even versing people. So that's an area where I hope in the future they kind of recognize and adapt to make sure that that is a playlist that is fun for people who coughed up quite a bit of money for the Seasons Pass on top of the game. A quick word about the maps. I think the maps in Gears 4 play very well. I would like to see the introduction of some smaller maps because for the most part I'd argue that most of these maps are actually quite large, but they all play well. The symmetry really helps. They look great. I would say that I want to see at some point the Coalition increase the cap to 15 maps for the map cycle instead of 10. As it stands, I think their plan is to remove maps every time new maps come out, and we're always going to have kind of 10 maps to cycle from. That's fine for the time being since we only have, I think, 12 maps with dry dock and checkout. But once we start getting a lot more, I think it wouldn't hurt to make the map cycle into 15 because 10 maps isn't a huge ton of maps anyway. So I do want to quickly talk about the Gears packs. I don't want to spend too much time on them because I know this is actually a very contentious point, and I could honestly make a whole commentary on them. I don't think I've ever purchased microtransactions unless DLC counts. But I've never been one to purchase skins or character skins because it doesn't affect the gameplay, so I don't really care too much about it. I just kind of get whatever you get for playing the game. I think I am a fan of microtransactions though because they provide an extra source of revenue for the developers, but at the same time you also have to make sure that your microtransactions are fair and that people are getting a bang for their buck, so to speak. And we all know that there's major pricing issues and issues with how fast you accumulate credits with Gears for Gears packs, but the Coalition has admitted that they're new to this, so if anything I would just urge players to hold off from spending their money and just kind of wait until things get tweaked, because we are going to see some changes, but it is important that if Gears of War is going to introduce this pack system, which I think is a good addition if done properly, then they take the time to really work out the problems with it, which especially is the pricing and duplication of things. So I myself don't think I'll be purchasing too many packs, but there are definitely things that can be improved, and that's all I really want to say on that. I don't want to waste too much breath on Gears packs. Quickly, I do think that there are some missing features that kind of raise an eyebrow, like leaderboards for ranked or lobbies so you can select maps or being able to view people's statistics. Kind of weird that they're not here. They were in previous Gears titles. I would have expected it to be in Gears 4, so those are some things that I know the Coalition is thinking of adding in the future, but it takes time. But really, they should have been in there from the start of the game. I'm not quite sure why they weren't. On the plus, I really do like some of the programs that are being run, like the Coalition program, the Coalition Army, sorry. Supporting your content creators is great for growing the game online. And if you actually go to their forums, they've done quite a good job of listening to feedback, and they're actually quite active. So kudos to them for doing that. And I guess what I want to end off on is just by expressing how much potential Gears 4 has. Is it perfect? No, but it's a really good Gears game. It's the first in its series of 5 and 6. So I think this is a great game that has a lot of potential, especially with DLC and whatnot. And we're going to see, I think, a lot of growth and positive change to Gears 4. But as it stands, I'm already loving the game, obviously. And I think most people hopefully are. And that's what I have to say about Gears 4. So feel free to share your thoughts and comments in the video, and thanks for watching.